All right, let's open this one up. We're looking at a case file, Twinit. But forget everything you think you know about folklore and ghost stories. We're not chasing phantoms in the woods, we're investigating a phenomenon that thunders right through the human psyche. We're treating the wild hunt like a psychological profile, a recurring pattern that's been showing up for centuries. So let's get into it. And that brings us to the central question of this whole investigation. What if this spectral procession, this terrifying chase across the winter sky, isn't something out there to be afraid of, but something in here that needs to be understood? What if the hunt is really just a mirror, showing us the untamed wilderness inside our own minds? So here's our game plan. We're breaking this case down into 6 acts. We'll start with that first thundering warning from deep inside. Then we'll meet its mysterious commander. We'll figure out the real purpose of this ghostly procession and witness the, believe it or not, creative chaos it brings. Then we'll zoom out to see what it all means for us today, and finally, what it really takes to ride with the night. Okay, Act 1, the thundering warning. You know, every big psychological journey starts with some kind of disturbance, a tremor from deep down. And that's exactly what this is. That moment you first hear the wild hunt on the horizon of your own consciousness. It's that unsettling feeling that something powerful, something you've ignored for way too long, is about to break through. So what is this thundering force? Well, in psychology, there's a name for this. It's called the shadow. It's basically all the stuff we push down, our raw instincts, our messy passions, our untamed nature. And the wild hunt? You can think of it as the shadow making a grand dramatic entrance, bursting right into your conscious awareness. Yeah, this quote nails it perfectly. See, our conscious mind, our ego, it's really just this thin veil. The hunt is that moment the veil gets torn apart. It's when our polite, orderly, civilized self is forced to admit just how fragile its control really is. The raw power of our hidden instincts just can't be ignored anymore. And here's why this myth has stuck around for so long. It serves a crucial purpose for us psychologically. We get to take all our own internal chaos and project it onto this big cosmic drama playing out in the sky. It lets our psyche confront its own scary hidden depths from a safe distance, you know? It's kind of like watching a horror movie about your own soul. So we've identified the force. Now who's in charge of this whole operation? Every hunt has a leader, and in this psychological drama, our guide is Diana. But don't think of her as a villain. No, she's a powerful and absolutely necessary commander, leading us straight into the wilderness of ourselves. Diana embodies an archetype called the anima, but probably not in the way you're used to thinking about it. This isn't the gentle, comforting version. This is the anima in its primal, lunar, dark aspect. She stands for intuition, for mystery, for a kind of deep knowing that goes way beyond logic. She's here to challenge our rational minds and remind us that the soul is in charge, not the intellect. This chart really drives the point home. Our culture, our rational minds, we often expect this feminine archetype to be a nurturing, compliant, comforting presence. But Diana just shatters that mold. She is not here to make our ego feel cozy. She's a fierce, independent commander, and she's here to challenge us, to force us to look at a power that's way bigger than our own logic. All right, let's turn our attention to the procession itself. All those hounds, the horses, the souls swept up in the chase. On the surface, it looks like a terrifying pursuit. But from a psychological view, it's actually something more like a recovery mission. And that recovery job has a name. It's the psychopomp archetype. A psychopomp is basically a guide for souls, a bridge between worlds. In our case file, the hunt is that bridge, the one between the conscious and unconscious parts of our mind. It's this whole process of gathering up all the fragmented, lost, or even dead parts of ourselves so we can become whole again. And this is so crucial. The hunt isn't about punishment, it's about integration. As you can see here, first it bridges the gap between the living and dead parts of our psyche. Then it gathers up all those lost fragments, old memories, abandoned dreams, you name it. And finally, it starts moving them towards wholeness. The mission is to make sure that no part of you is ever really left behind. And this brings us to the climax of our investigation, the heart of the chaos. The storm of the hunt feels like pure destruction, right? But it's destruction with a profound purpose. This is a necessary and, ultimately, a transformative storm. This quote just captures that feeling perfectly. Let's be real, deep personal growth is hardly ever a calm, quiet process.
It's usually a period of intense storm and stress. The chaos of the hunt is a symbol for that necessary breakdown of old, rigid ways of thinking that are holding you back from becoming who you're meant to be.
There's actually a powerful ancient term for this from alchemy, nigurito. It means the blackening. It's the very first stage of transformation where everything has to dissolve into this dark, chaotic soup. It looks and feels like the end, but really, it's the essential first step before anything new can ever be created. And that's the ultimate point of this storm. This isn't chaos for chaos's sake. The Wild Hunt is like a psychic force that sweeps through your life to clear out everything that's become stagnant. Dead ideas, limiting beliefs, old habits that don't serve you anymore. It's clearing the ground so that something new and alive can finally begin to grow. Okay, time to zoom out. So far, we've been treating this as a personal case file, happening inside one person. But the Wild Hunt is also a collective thing. It kind of haunts our entire culture, and it actually serves a very specific purpose in our modern, rational world. So just like a person has a shadow, an entire culture has one too. The cultural shadow holds everything our modern world has tried to get rid of or forget. Our primal instincts, our connection to the wildness of nature, our belief in mystery. And the myth of the Wild Hunt, it's one of the main stories that carries this cultural shadow for us.
This chart gives you a pretty simple visual of a complex idea. When a society puts way too much emphasis on logic, on order, on technology, a powerful need for the opposite, for mystery, for the wild, it builds up like pressure. It's a balancing act. It's exactly why, in our super rational age, things like fantasy epics and horror movies are more popular than ever. The Wild Hunt keeps showing up because it's our collective psyche trying to balance the scales.
And that brings us to the final act, riding with the night. We've faced the shadow, we've met its commander, we've survived the storm. So, what now? Well, this is the act of integration. It's about learning not just to watch the hunt from the sidelines, but to actually ride with it. The final destination of this whole wild journey has a name: individuation. This is the ultimate goal in Jungian psychology. It's the lifelong process of integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of yourself, not to become a perfect self, but to become a whole self, to become who you truly are. And this table here shows the great synthesis that happens. See, the goal isn't for light to defeat dark or for civilization to pave over the wilderness. It's about holding the tension between them. It's about learning to find the beauty inside the terror and weaving the wild parts of yourself into who you are to create a more resilient, more complex, and way more authentic personality. So, we close the case file with this one final thought. The Wild Hunt isn't just some old, dusty myth. It's a psychological map. It shows us the path through the dark woods of the soul, leading toward a more complete version of ourselves. And the only question left is the one it asks of you, the one right here. Where is your wilderness leading you?